There have been some people who were instrumental over the course of this entire year who helped make this series very successful, and they include the staff from the Vice President of Marketing and External Affairs, Marie Nez, Ed McCombs, Bernie Dotson, Vale Atakai, L.A. Williams, who's always done the broadcast live for the radio, Foster Gorman, Frey Gray for facility setup, and then the food provided through NMS Food Services. With that, let me go ahead and briefly introduce our speaker, Dr. Cassandra Manuelito-Kerkvliet. She is the president of Antioch University in Seattle since 2007, and she just retired. She's the first Native American woman to ascend to the presidency of an accredited university outside the tribal college system. Prior to her appointment in Seattle, she served as the first woman president of Diné College from 2000 to 2003, and she's the great-great-granddaughter of Navajo Chief Manuelito. Over the course of her career, she specialized in higher education administration and holds a PhD in educational policy and management. So with that, I present Dr. Cassandra Manuelito-Kerkvliet.
Yeah, Miranda, for inviting me to help you celebrate the 50th anniversary, and it just gives me chills to come back and be part of the celebration. She Cassandra Manuelito-Kerkvliet insia, ke anin shla she pashin, ishne dashe okay dashanella. And my families are from Nashchiri and Tohatchi, and my home is in Oregon and Montana. And I wanted to just have a visit with you, an informal visit for those of us who are in this room in the student union, and not do anything so official. Hi, Ed. I'm seeing all kinds of people, and I've been here, as Miranda said, in 2000 to 2003, and I see people in the audience who've been with me and have worked with me, but I'm going to be all over the map, it seems like, when I start talking. But first of all, I want to thank everyone for coming out. But more importantly, I also want to introduce you to my fan club sitting in the front row, front two rows here, my family. All of us know that family is so important, and if it weren't for my mom and my sisters, and I'm going to cry, if it weren't for them supporting me, and if it weren't for my elders or my aunties and my cousins, all of them, I couldn't have done what I did when even I was here. And so I say that in spite of all the things I've done in life since Diné College, if we are deeply, deeply connected to our family, to our relatives, to our homeland, to our ceremonies, and know that our ancestors, all of those ancestors who sacrificed for me to stand here and say that at one time I was president, and it was a short time in a lifetime of being in higher education. Because I've been in education for over 30 years. And if it wasn't here, I was born and raised in Laramie, Wyoming. So my years at University of Wyoming, University of New Mexico State, Oregon State, and when I heard about this position as a possible position in leadership, I heard it from my sister Brenda. Some of you may know Brenda, who used to be on faculty here in the Social and Behavioral Sciences Division. And she says, you can do this, Shada, you can do this. And, I'm at Oregon State University. And I'm also, at the time, working on that doctorate that Miranda talked about. How could I possibly leave my doctoral work and do this? But I remember thinking, as I had my first class, I said, why do I even want to get a PhD in education policy and management if I don't want to lead? And all of us can go to a place in our lives, and you as students, because I'm going to be talking to a few students that I see that are, among the audience. How do you know what you want to do and take risks and and, go to places of, that's unknown, either as a faculty member or as a leader, or, get through school so you can go off and get jobs. So I say that the things I did in my life and in the course of my life has come from teachings from my parents and my grandparents and ceremony. I say that my formative years were in Laramie, Wyoming, and a long time ago, when I was in the early 60s, I never knew I would be a college president. I was shy. In Laramie, Wyoming, it wasn't but 20 years ago that we hung Matthew Shepard, a gay student, on the barbed wire fence. So can you imagine living in a place that doesn't have other Indians? So you grow up with a redneck community. So coming back home and helping was one of the things I wanted to do when I went off to college. The first time I wanted to go to college, I wanted to go to Dinak College, but it was Navajo Community College, and it was at mini farms. And my dad said, "You're going to go to school here. We're going to keep an eye on you." In Laramie at the University of Wyoming. Because I graduated in 72 and the school started in 68, Dinak College, or Navajo Community College. This is where I wanted to be. But I had family who said, it's easier to be in state and go to school. So my first degree, a bachelor's degree, was in social work. I wanted to go and help my own people, help people in social services. And then I went back to school, and I went back to University of Wyoming, and I also got a counseling degree, counselor education. And then I start heading off into higher education, being an advocate for students. And as I said, I have over 30 years of working with Indian students. And I remember hearing, and I would visit my sister at this campus, and I would hear about, Dinak College and what it's doing. And I'm at this new school at the University of Oregon, and they're saying, "Why do you want a PhD?" And I said, "I want to be a college president one day," not knowing it's going to be this school, our school, Dinak College. And, you're with a lot of Bilagana students, and they're thinking, who does she think she is? She's already has her mind made up in her first class that she wants to be a college president. So before I even finished school, and I'm saying this to the students, there's a course that you're on, and sometimes you never know what's going to come in your way, opportunities. And I had this opportunity, and I remember I had been out in the Indian conferences, Indian education conferences, NIEA, ACES, and innumerable conferences, and so people were starting to hear my name. I've got this funny name, Manuelito-Kerkvliet. And I kid and I say, I married into the Dutch tribe. Kerkvliet is a Dutch name, and it means church by the stream. And if I wanted a job back home, I can't be Kerkvliet, Cassandra Kerkvliet. They're going to say, who's she? I should. So I put a very important, name. My name is Manuelito, and then I'll add this one. There's not. And so when I was building up my reputation out in the bigger mainstream world, believe it or not, I got an anonymous phone call from Dinak College saying, "We heard about you. You should apply." And I'm in a doctoral program. Luckily, in that program, I was done with my coursework, and I'm going into the dissertation stage. And I had to go to my professors, all white guys, and I remember being in those schools and picking my topic, and my professor saying, "Cassandra, you're too narrowly focused on white issues." And I would say to them, "Are you going to say that to all the white students that I'm going to school with? You're narrowly focused on white issues. If you can say that to them, as you're saying to me, the only Indian student in your doctoral program, then I think fair is fair. So I went on and applied, and they thought, you're not even done with your coursework. But I don't know if many of you know that in your doctoral coursework, you can have the time clock stop. So you stop the clock. And I said, I went not only to my department, but I went to the dean of graduate school, and I said, I want to stop the clock. I want to apply for this job at Diné College. And I just took a tour of the museum, and I remember Harry Walters giving me that tour and meeting him for the first time, and being at this campus. And there were 2 Navajo women and a man from Alaska. All I remember is John's name from Alaska. He had a PhD, and I was there, and all of us interviewed at the same time, same stage, and we would go to Shiprock and do the same, interview in front of everyone. And I remember walking around in Chinle after the interviews at the hotel there. I think it was the Thunderbird or wherever Diné College put us up. And I remember John saying, Cassandra, you're going to get this job. You nailed the questions. No. And I said, no. And it's like I said, you don't want to be afraid of what opportunities are out there for you. So if I had wanted to be a college president, now it's being presented to me before, I'm done. And so when I became that president, I remember saying that I'll help you out, but I need, typically presidents get a short contract to see if they work out. So they gave me a 3-year contract, and I said at the end of that time, I need to go home to Oregon and take care of my own personal business, which is the PhD. And so I did become that president for Diné College. And I remember being on the outside looking in, because we can be all Navajo and we can be related by clan, but I was on the outside going to those white schools with that hyphenated Dutch name. But I think what I had going for me was that I could come home and feel that I was supported. At Diné College, I knew that I was related to Wilson Aronlith, and I remember the second call after I accepted and I was back in Oregon, Wilson called me, and he was so happy. I remember that he was crying, saying, congratulations, you're going to join us. The one at the Pine family on my mom's side, we're so proud of you. No, he called me. And so I took off. Many of you don't know that I had to leave my husband at Oregon State University, and I came here, and I lived alone, and I ran the college. It's a long distance marriage. And ran the college and had to prove myself right away to all of the constituents that make up Diné College, the faculty, the staff, the students, the Board of Regents, and I'm an outsider. And I've got tribal council to convince, because council was saying it's not a place for a woman to be in leadership. As we have fewer representatives of women delegates, and a smaller delegate too. Delegation of the Navajo Council I'm referring to. So I remember having to convince a lot of people, and I'm going to kind of take some of you who've been with me on Memory Road, because do you remember that we used to get a tribal appropriation of about $9,000. And we had a vice president of finance who had to go up to the Navajo Council with me, and he said, quote, "Don't worry your pretty little head about this. I'm the president, and I need to know those financial figures that I'm trying to convince Navajo Nation that we need some money here." I would use outside people to help me. And I remember some graduate students from the University of Michigan who really helped me look at the financials, because The gentleman who said, "Don't worry your pretty little head about this," didn't last much longer. And I had to find a way to look at what we had for the books. You guys were, coming up for accreditation. I needed to have an understanding of what was happening to this university or this college. So I had to go to Navajo Nation and I had to convince them. And I had to convince my Board of Regents that I could do this. I come back after that, and I remember, and I'm being so honest because I'm an open book. I remember when I got appropriations for $2.2 million for Diné College from the Tribal Council. I worked so hard for that. And I came back and I was told, if you're that good, double the money. So the next year, I go back and I have to do bigger convincing. You know, we get audited and we got to clean up our audits, and I've got a finance person on board. I've got a lot of things going. And I go back and I remember my mom and my aunties, my mom's sisters, they stayed up all night, one night, making breakfast burritos to give to the council delegates to get their vote. I said, I need your vote. I want this money. And what I know in my work, even in those white schools, is that you can't say, I need money for my students, I need money for the tribal college. You need to say why. You need to show data. You need to show information, because information, like knowledge, is power, right? And so I said, I've scrubbed the numbers with, the finance people. This is what I need. But I have 88 members, remember, the council? And you have to get 2/3 of their vote. And they're telling me a woman's place isn't in this top position. I have to convince them. And it took my mom and my aunties helping me by making those breakfast burritos. And I said, nah, if you're going to take my breakfast burrito, I want your vote. And we got the votes and we got it passed. And we got, by the time I left, it was like 4.5 million. I don't know how much it is that you're able to get from Navajo Nation. But I remember sitting in my car talking to my husband, and I just started crying. And I said, I did it. Because they don't want to see a woman crying. You're in a leadership position, you can't cry. But privately, it's like, I did it. And those are some of those special memories I had. Another one that I'm really, really proud of was that in order to get those appropriations, I had to get your faculty and staff salaries up to par. And once you can get the faculty and staff salaries, you guys got a bump. Then you could support me. You could, you knew who I was and that I was really, really working for you, because I was able to bring in the appropriations to get you at the right salary schedules. I remember like Charles Coffey, he used to be here. He was helping with the faculty look at those numbers for why we needed to bring faculty salaries up, why we needed to bring staff salaries up. And when you can support the people who work with you and for you, they will support you. And then we took off. I remember talking with Ferlin Clark, and he says, R.C. Gorman came from Chinle, and he's, has connections here. We need to get a hold of him, and we need to go find out about those appropriations that he could get. So that next big accomplishment that I have, and I just went up there to the library, was the R.C. Gorman room. I was able to sit down with R.C. Gorman, talk about the significance of his artwork, his library collection, why it was so important that we bring that back home, and that he give back to his community. And we worked a long, long time, and I was just telling I was telling her that when the final signatures on that agreement, the memorandum of agreement that I had with R.C. Gorman, that was going to happen. I was really, really tired, and it was springtime, and I needed to go home because, I missed my husband, but I was going home because I had a birthday and I had an anniversary. And so I thought, let me just take a little vacation. I've done all this work. And I get a call while I'm out there, and they say, come back now, and fly into Scottsdale. We've got the agreement. You need to sign it. So I gave up my anniversary, said, husband, you have to wait. My birthday can wait. And I went and I signed the documents with RC. And RC, I said, this really means a lot to Diné College. And I said, I even gave up my private time, my birthday, my husband, my anniversary. And it was just so neat that he said the artwork that he was working on at that time, every time we went to his studio, he said, I'll name it after you. Go online and you can see Cassandra. It's beautiful, beautiful painting he did. And then he said, I'm going to gift you this. And I said, RC, as a president, I cannot take a gift. I said, thank you so much. It means so much to me that you just named it, gave it to me. But, I can't take a gift. After I leave here, I'm doing my dissertation, and I'm doing my dissertation work in Washington, D.C. And one day I get this huge package. It was a crate, a wooden crate, huge, like one of these squares, big squares on the floor. Inside was a framed, matted, signed Cassandra. And his handwritten notes goes, Cassandra, this is yours, you deserve it, and now you can hang it on your own fireplace. No, he sent me Cassandra. So that was a real memorable time for me too, to have him here. Remember, we brought him here. Bill Richardson was governor. He came. The Navajo Nation Council came. Do you remember all that? And then as I went away, I didn't want to go away. But, we were on a roll. Remember that? Those of you who were here with me, we were on a roll. But my time had run out, and the clock was ticking again for my doctoral work. And I remember I was at Navajo Nation, and one of Joe Shirley's staff members stopped me in the parking lot. And he says, President Shirley wants you to stay on. And it doesn't matter if you have your PhD. We want you to stay on, and we want to double your salary. And I said, I can't, and I won't, because my own personal goal of finishing my doctorate meant so much to me. And I knew it would open doors, and I had to say no. It was hard to say no because I don't know what my future was going to be when I go back to Oregon, but I knew I had a personal commitment. If Chief Manuelito said, climb the ladder to success, how could it's in my DNA that my grandpa has this foresight. He has this foresight about how we will be successful when we climb that ladder. So for me, that was my personal goal. And so it was hard to leave Diné College. But I had my personal commitment too, to my family, to say we can do it. And then to my husband and to my kids and to my grandson, that I finish. And that's why I had that short 3-year term with you. As I went away, before I went away, here's another story about Diné College. There was a woman, and I would go to these national meetings where they had women presidents. They all come together. How can we open the door for other Indian women or other women presidents? No. I would go to these meetings. And one woman, I was in this big meeting, and I challenged all the women there. I said, none of you have ever probably stepped on a reservation. You need to come to a tribal college before you start saying all these things about our, students. Our students can benefit. The reason tribal colleges were put in place was to elevate and make the students successful before they go away to your schools, to your mainstream schools, and so on. And I'm telling them that. I said, come to a reservation, come to a tribal college, come to mine. I challenge you to come to mine. No. One woman came, and the day she came, we had a bear scare on campus. And that bear scare, before that bear scare, I had my car, the president's vehicle, and I loaned it to the campus police because their vehicle was out. And it's like, I'm not going anywhere, just take the campus police, take the campus car. And I gave away the car. And so Maxine, my assistant, was in the office, and this lady's waiting for me from from Antioch University, Seattle. And remember, that's where I'm going with my next presidency. So Tony Murdoch is sitting in my office, and Maxine said, she's going to be a little late. We have a bear somewhere on campus, and she's walking through the woods. No, and this lady who came to visit me said, wow, what a strong lady. She's going to be, what a generous lady. She's giving up the campus car to her campus police, and she's walking through the woods, and there's a bear. I didn't know there was a bear. They didn't tell me. And I go to the office, and then I show her around, and then I think one of the reasons she came was, if you recall, we had a charter school on this campus. See, my memory comes back. Art Bin was the one who ran this charter school, and she said, how did you get a charter school on a university campus, college campus? So I said, come on out, and that's how she came out. And when she came from Seattle, I was living in Corvallis, which is the home of Oregon State University, where I did most of my cutting my teeth in administration, I call it. She said, what do you miss? Let me bring you something. I said, oh, I miss Starbucks coffee. I miss good chocolate. And, I live way out here, and I have these stockings that keep running, because we had to wear stockings then. And she brought me a big bag of stockings, big Starbucks coffee and chocolates, and this lady came from Seattle. And the reason I'm telling you this story is, then she calls me in Washington, D.C., and I'm working on my dissertation, and she said, Antioch University got $9 million from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We want to offer you a position to head up the Indian Education Office. What did I say? No, I can't do it. Because remember, I'm writing my dissertation. I've got my personal goal. And I have this next opportunity. So, can you feel this? As students, I'm hoping that you can see that you take risks and you say, for me, I believe that when you go through life, there are no accidents. There are only opportunities, and you need to be open to opportunities. And this could have been a big opportunity, and I had to say no. I'm sorry, I'm working on my dissertation, but if anything else ever comes up, call me. 2 or 3 years later, I'm in Bozeman, Montana, working with Priscilla Weaver. I didn't even know she was there. And a search firm calls me. You've been recommended to apply for this position at Antioch University. I now have my PhD. I now have another opportunity. But in between that opportunity, if you recall in the news, I also applied to IAIA in Santa Fe. And I got the position. Now, some of you who've known me a long, long time know I have high integrity. I do everything out of honesty because my dad taught me so many strong values about honesty, integrity, and think of everyone. When I accepted my presidency at IAIA, before I even got on the campus on July 1st, I had bought a house in Santa Fe, 5 minutes from the campus. I was deeply committed to work at IAIA, had a fresh, spanking new PhD, and this is what I wanted to do. The reason I had to turn that down after I became president and before I even got to my first day on the job, the board told me, you need to elevate one person's salary. And I found out later he wanted to be the president. But they could only give him the bones or whatever. And they said, on your first day, you're going to make this salary adjustment. And I said, that's not how I work. I've been to your campus. I've talked about my role as a leader. And I've been to your board retreat. I'm talking to the board about what you do. And I said, I won't do this because I do not have the inside information. I want to sit down with my faculty, my staff, my administration, and find out what's the lay of the land. That's what they call it, when you're trying to figure out what's going on somewhere. I wanted to get the lay of the land. I'm not going to make a decision from Corvallis, Oregon, and elevate one person's salary. And I remember saying on the phone, if this is the kind of president you wanted, then I'm not that president. And you can call my attorney. That's scary to do. But it's so important to do the right thing, Ania. Do the right thing. Because what I always remember is that it's not just me. It's not just me and my role as a president or my status or the salary or the responsibilities. At one point on Hitana, we believed that it could harm my family if I don't do the right things. I have sons, I have grandchildren, and I need to do the right thing. And those were some of those teachings that I keep saying I'm so indebted to my family, my grandparents, my parents, my culture, that tells us how we should be, how we should live our lives, how we should have respect for for the people who work with us, among us. And that's how I was able to say, I can't do it. And I hung on to that home at a loss, and I just sold it last year. And I came here, I was going there in 2006, and this housing bubble just plummeted, and I had to hang on to a house in Santa Fe. And I had to say, I'm being honest here, in my spare time, I do a lot of whitewater rafting. I fly fish, I backpack. So I remember that it's like, you can talk to my attorney, and I'm like, and I said to my husband, Joe, we just bought a house, and I just turned it down, and he says, honey, when we're in those rapids, they give it a classification number, 1, just moving along, 2, got kind of a few ripples, 3, kind of seeing a little whitewater, and you're going along, and 6, you shouldn't even be in that water, right? And I remember my husband saying, class 6 waves. Honey, we're in class 6 waves. No. He goes, but one day we're going to get back to slack water. And that's all I needed to hear, is that, the river can be rippling and roaring, but when it gets down to a smooth wave again, but I had to trust that and then move on. And then I get that call in Washington, D.C., and then I get the call at Bozeman. And at Bozeman, I didn't want people to know. It's like, I just work here. I work in the American Indian Research Office, I'm just here. But no one knew I was a president. at Dinnett College, or I'd gone to IAIA, unless you were Navajo, I guess. And then I apply. And I thought, this is what I went to school for. And do you know why I picked Antioch University of all the schools across the country? They started in 1852, back in Ohio. And in 1852, that's a long, long, long time ago, right? They allowed blacks to be among their student body. They allowed women to be on faculty. And they allowed a woman to be on their board of regents. Isn't that phenomenal? Yeah. And I thought, if that white school believes this, they believe I'm just going to give it everything I got. And so I studied, and by the time I went off, flew into Seattle, I had a notebook that thick about the school. And I did that on you guys too when I came. I looked at all the faculty, what are your programs, and trying to get an understanding, the lay of the land that I was talking about. I was trying to do it here too, but I did it at Antioch. And I remember in those big schools, they don't bring you straight to the campus. They just bring you to an airport. And you interview at the airport. And if you get to the next level, then they'll invite you to the campus. And I remember being in a room with the interviewers at the airport. And they said, they asked me all the questions. And then it's like, it's your turn. Do you have any questions for us? And I was prepared to ask a lot of questions. And one of the questions I asked, I don't even remember what it was. The lady sitting, a Bilagana lady sitting next to me on my left, she started crying. And I thought, this is my interview and someone's crying and so on. And it turned out, and it's also, something that I experienced here was the morale issues were really low when I came. It was you guys were going through a really tough time. And remember, I'm a counselor in my training, so I could listen to people. So I listened at that place and I thought, so I said to the lady, what are the tears about? Bedini. And they couldn't talk because there was someone behind them that it was about. But I figured it out. And I thought, do I want to be here? I just went through Dinnett College, but I could turn it around and I could leave on a high note. I think I can do that again. And so if they offer me the position, I interview and you never hear from them. It takes forever in those schools, months and months, and I'm just working with Priscilla and John and just going about my business, and I get a call. But I want to go back a little bit. The guy who headed up the search firm, an outside search firm, took me out of the room after I did my interview with them, and he said, Cassandra, you just did it. You're good. You did it. And I said, don't say that. Don't jinx it. And I said, and you're not supposed to say that. You're supposed to be impartial. You're a search firm. But he said, and then he quit saying anything. And then that's the last I knew of feedback about my interview until I got the position. And I just can't, it's like a whirlwind. I was there from 2007 to 2013 when I finally retired. And we did phenomenal things there as well. But heading up a white school, I was telling not about that. I used what I used here at Dinnett College. There's an article, you can go back to through Navajo Times, there's an article about my position at Antioch. Someone came out from Navajo Times and interviewed me and said, you're out here. I think it was for NIA conference. Someone came out and then they went to our campus. And I was able to say, because I use respect, and in those schools, I would put out an eagle feather. If there's disgruntled people and I'm in a meeting with them and I put out the feather, because white people are really respectful of our ways. And so I could take the feather that I was using, and I could do things and say, I'm going to hear everyone. You're not going to cut someone off, and we're going to do this. And I kept thinking back to how we could do it here at Diné College, and I could do it there. An aside is that I remember Avery Denny. You came out. He came out for my inauguration, and he did the Navajo Journey song as they brought me in for my inauguration. And you talk to them and says, you take care of my granddaughter. No, you know, that I could do the things I did there. I put down offerings for Antioch. I brought the chancellor back here. I had her sit down in a hogan and do an offering. She's a Bilagana woman. I was able to say, when we go back, and this is again for students or those of you who go off to the mainstream world, don't feel like you're an outsider. Take your teachings with you. Take your Tutadine. I have my Tutadine right here. I take my my eagle feather. When I was here, I had an eagle feather, and there I had to just wear a ring that has the feather. I did things. The turquoise was to protect yourself, and so you can do it anywhere you're, you know, in the mainstream culture, if and when you take your teachings. When you go off, know who you are back here with your family, with your relatives, with your homeland, so that you can walk that, what I call, this floor here is zigzag for those of you listening in. I call it, you're walking a corn pollen path. You know, like a corn, you know, goes this way with an ear this way. You don't have to say, and a lot of the students that I would see in other schools would say, oh, it's so hard to be Indian here. I'm the only one. I'm schizophrenic. No. I said, you don't have to. You just walk this braided path. You know when you have to be white for them. You know when you can be Diné. And you walk this braided path. Nia. Are you with me? Let me get some nods. So I'm just saying here, know, even as a student, know your power. Know your power. Know why. Know your why. Why are you in school? Why do you want to make a better life for yourself? Know your why. Know how. Know your how. If it's going to be start at the next college and then I'll transfer here and then I'll go here. Maybe I'll do a summer internship here. How connect with people outside of your family, the school here. Make strong connections. We, as Diné people and as Native people, we're connected as relatives. Use those connections to find the resources to do good work. As a student, as a faculty member, as a staff, as an administrator, connect. And then know the issues and have a plan. I knew when I got to Antioch that I had to turn things around. I knew I had to do something here with our dismal finances. I had to know the information. I had to develop a plan. And I have to believe in the people that work with me. So in this room, you know, I've got my colleague who worked at Crown Point, Jim Tutt. He was a college president, a friend and colleague with me. I have a former vice president of academic affairs, Ben Barney, stepped into that role. I am indebted to Vice President of Finance, Ron Bololi, who left. I'm indebted to Maggie Nessifer, who was Vice President of Academic Affairs. I'm indebted to so many people. I'm indebted to you, Avery. I remember we had 9/11. I called you and I said, let's get everyone together in the auditorium, or was in the Hotali Center, I think. We just, the planes hit the building. I was going to work. Everyone was upset, and I called him and I said, "Shkhanjid, let's do something and bring us all together." So you make connections. Sometimes I even made connections over it. I remember early on, I made a connection with someone in maintenance. Poor guy, he was digging a big hole and he was up to his, and a deep hole. And I said, "It's hot out here." I gave him a water bottle and he didn't even know I was the president. I'm just like concerned about him, and we're talking and he goes, lady, and talking to him. Next thing you know, I have to do the special welcome. Everybody's coming back and this man is sitting in the audience working for me. And he says, "I didn't know you were the president." No, he says, "You're just easy to talk to, you're easy to approach." And then I was in a bathroom and there was a student. And there was a time when we couldn't get phone service. You had to go on the little hill. Do you remember, Ed? We had the little hill and you had the internet. And I needed to call Joe. And the girl says, "I can't get a hold of my boyfriend." No, she's washing her hands and I'm washing my hands. And I said, "She's my boyfriend, I can't call him." Little did she know. And then she got all embarrassed the next time she saw me in the elevator because I was her president. And I was sharing an intimate detail that we couldn't get a hold of our significant others because of the phone systems here. Anyway, by being here, I had the rare opportunities to also travel. So I'm also indebted to Janet Napolitano. She was governor of Arizona. She's now president in a California school, University of California. We would be at a table and I'd be talking about the Net College for our Arizona appropriations. I'd be in Bill Richardson's office in Santa Fe, and I'd be, all over, and we traveled to New Zealand to help them with, they were looking at their tribals, they wanted to do tribal colleges. And I traveled to Peru with, not in a formal delegation with the Net College, but I traveled with the Net College folks to go to Peru and see and visit, a little school out there and to just see the world. So opportunities open up for you when you do, sort of like spread your wings and see the bigger picture out there. So I think it's always important to not be intimidated by anything people say. People will try to diminish whatever you do. But if you know what you've done without bragging, you can sit in your who you are, who you are without, all the trappings and stuff. You don't have to listen to that. You can be confident in who you are, and you can be confident in what you can offer to people. So when I came here, there's talk about, your place isn't here, a woman's place isn't at the Net College in top leadership. Don't know. You just have to go with your heart and be confident in what you can offer. Because I had been in those white schools, and I was the only person trying to help Native voices and trying to be an advocate and trying to, connect with people. And those connections have helped me immensely, I'm telling you, throughout my whole life. Now you're probably wondering, well, if you're so good, why are you retired? I retired. And it's a good place to be. I'm professionally engaged. I do a lot of public speaking. I sit on national boards, and I'm deeply committed to helping the next generation of leaders. I want to be that bridge for anyone who wants to go move on and do things. So I do a lot of coaching. I do a lot of mentoring. I talk to a lot of minority women. I serve on UC Berkeley's Faculty for Educational Leadership Academy. And I also talk to women leaders through a higher ed program called HERS. And I sit on these boards, but I also serve on their faculty, and I talk. And people will walk away crying and saying, I want to do what you do. How did you do it? I said, give me your card and let's keep talking. And I have helped other emerging leaders to become leaders. I have this wonderful young man, and we've been talking ever since I was doing conferences, maybe 5, 6 years ago, and he's now a vice president in a school back east. And I have like 5 of them, who are other ethnic groups that I coach and mentor. And unfortunately, just last week, I was having coffee with a young woman who's Native, who was a college president of one of the tribal colleges in Montana. And she was denied a position that she most deservedly should have had. We worked so hard on everything for her, and she was turned down and they selected a white male. And so we sat and strategized how we're going to do the next step. So all of them aren't successes, but she knew what she was going to do next. And you can feel the pain of rejection, but you can also move on. And it's like, you're in class 6, but one day you'll be back to slack water, and give them the confidence to do that. So I just say, if you are effective, you will be opposed. And it's not for the faint of heart. These top roles. It's hard. You can't cry. And I wanted to that day with 9/11 and seeing all this horror on TV, and I cried privately for happiness when we got the 4.5 million in the car. So I'm saying that I see myself as a bridge for that next generation. Because one day, when Miranda introduced me and she said, Cassandra was the first Native American woman to head up Bilagana School. She's the first, this. Someday, I don't want to hear, you're the first, you're the first, you're the first. There should be so many of us that no one has to be acknowledged as the first woman. This, or first woman this. Ania. One day, I want to be able to say we have more representation. Be it women, be it minority, be it Diné, so that we don't say, I'm the first, fill in the blank. It's my belief. When I was here, and I faced significant challenges, I also turned to the elders, not only at campus, but with my family. And I go back to and said, what did they do at Wilde? This happened. There's tension, things happen. And so I was also guided. And they say, and I don't know if we still do this, that we can run ceremony. There's a prayer for a leader. There's a song for a leader. There's ceremony that they do. And I was forever running off in the middle of the night trying to do a ceremony for us, or bring it here, or even in Antioch, come home to the res. There's always ceremony. And even if you're as a student and you're like in medicine or science or doing things, and they're saying, the old ones say, yeah, get a ceremony. Talk to those who know. He says, you can do this and make it okay for you to work in that field so that you can help to advance whatever knowledge is moving forward. And get the help of your elders and go back to ceremony. That was so important for me. It still is today. I won't go home without a prayer. I won't go home without doing certain things that I was raised with, even if I have to do it alone. Because I'm never alone. You're never alone. I think that for me and for all of you, every one of us sitting here in this room, I said there were no accidents that for what happened to me. There are no accidents for any of us. And I believe that all of us are put on this earth for a purpose. Understand your purpose. What were you born and what were the prayers said for you by your parents and your grandparents? Understand your purpose. And you will always be guided. Because there are no accidents. How are we doing for time? Okay, she says 10 more minutes. And then you guys can ask me anything you ever wanted to know, because I am an open book. I believe in education because we are building numbers. Not only do I want to see women in top roles, and remember with this latest election that we had, we finally have, I think it was in the state of New Mexico, state of Arizona. I live part of my time, half my year in Montana and half the year in Oregon. And I just learned that, because I told you I was born and raised in Laramie, Wyoming. There's a Navajo woman who's now in the Wyoming legislature. First Native woman, but it's Navajo, and we Navajos are, I say, everywhere. And it's just exciting that we're building those numbers in leadership. And I think as we really turn to the education that is delivered by the tribal colleges, we're seeing a huge increase of women students. Would you say that's true, Priscilla? The enrollment of Native students, Navajo students, Native students across the board for tribal colleges. Jim, you remember they used to talk about the women would come out and get educated. So this education that you're taking, for those of you who are students here, and those of you who are here and not students, you can always go back, take a class. Today they have classes online for anything. You're a lifelong learner. And so when you are back in school, it gives you the knowledge to navigate in the world, to make decisions about your top leaders because you've read, you're educated, you know the issues. For our recent election of our Navajo Nation president, if you are on top of things, you know how to vote. You know how to get access to health care. You know how to take care of your finances and your home, and you're in better shape. So I encourage you to go beyond Diné College. And I'm so excited when I go visit the website and I see a new program, a new master's, a new bachelor's, a new program being created at Diné College. I am so excited. 50 years from now, we're going to have those doctorates here. We're going to have more than we've ever had now. And that's what I pray for. Because that's like I said, it's in my DNA. I believe in education. And that it opens doors for you. It certainly did for me in my journey. Not only do I want to put a shout out to, those VPs that I talked about, I also wanted to continue that shout out to, I run into students sometimes. They went to Diné College. I was sitting on a board in Washington, D.C. for the Washington internship program for Native students, and Diné College students would be there. And they would say, "Oh, you're our president." And I'll see them, on the march when we were doing the water issues in South Dakota. and I'll see students, even back from Oregon State, when I used to be there, and it just, my heart sings when I see students advancing and they come back and they acknowledge the gifts that they got here at Diné College, or a particular faculty member. You helped me out, and I want to thank you. I have gone back to my president, who believed in me at Oregon State, a white guy. They had all white president, white vice presidents, and they would bring me in. It was scary and my heart thumping. And that man became my mentor. I didn't have a Navajo mentor. I didn't have a Native mentor. I took those gray suits, I call them. And I was blessed to go back and tell John Byrne, that president, yeah, I just said, yeah, you believed in me to tell me to go back to school and get that PhD. You believed in me and said I could do it, and I did it, and I'm still doing it. So this when we say walk in beauty, I want to say that trail is beautiful. That climb up the ladder, the vista you can see, is beautiful. And that's all I want for all of us in this room, in our lives, our personal lives, our professional lives. Those of you who are listening, whatever wish you put out, whatever offering you have put out, may it be beautiful for every one of you. And may you go forward. When they say, walk in beauty, I want to tell you it's a beautiful trail. Yeah.
Nidon Ahihet Shache, thank you very much. We began the 50th anniversary speaker series with a speech by a college president back in January, and tonight we conclude our series with a former president, Cassandra Manuelito-Kerkvliet. I have so much admiration for her. She is right in saying that she became president at a time here at Diné College when we were undergoing a tumultuous period, and I can say she brought healing to our college. She restored our college family to Huizhou. As you can hear, I can affirm that she did lead with honesty and integrity, and most importantly, is one of the best communicators that I know. These remain important characteristics for every leader. She is serious about mentoring others and minority women in leadership. It is a pleasure to welcome her home and share her expertise with you. She is one of the most authentic persons that I know, and we are fortunate that she took time with us to be here with us this evening. And so, thank you again. We appreciate your presentation.
Miranda, yes. I have a gift for you.
Okay. We'll be exchanging gifts.
I am returning a gift. I am returning a gift. She gifted me this check, and I'm putting it into the new scholarship.
Wow, thank you.
She said, we'll pay for your travels. You take care of all this stuff. And I can, in all consciousness, I cannot take this gift because it's my family. And so I will be gifting it back, and I looked on the website, and you guys have recently did a fundraising, and I'm giving you a gift.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And we've got a gift for you. Okay. Some mementos from Diné College.
I have lots of them.
We did my students and I did a Navajo oral history project.
Nice.
And we compiled living histories of Diné College, longtime Diné College employees. So
Look
in
at
your free time,
Jack Jackson.
you could watch that.
Agatha, look at that. Wilson.
Yes.
Look at this. Okay, I'm sorry.
And then just as a reminder, I want to ask you to take some time to complete the evaluation, okay? You've got some there on your chair. And then please join us for dinner as well. We've got a nice
Yes.
table, and you're welcome to ask her any
Yeah,
questions
or
that you
we can
have.
do that now
Yeah,
while
we
they're
can do
setting
that
up.
after you've done
Anyone want to
questions.
say anything, or I just want to say hello and give Ed a hug, and who else is around? It's good to see you.
Why I chose business administration is because, I want to run my own business one day, and also it works towards my job and everything and ties in with it, which I work for Office of Institution Planning and Reporting, and I deal with a bunch of data collecting for the school, which my title is Data Entry Specialist, which is dealing with the bunch of the numbers that tie in with the behind the scenes thing that I want to do for my job, which gives me a whole lot of experience, but I want to tie in for my job.
I am a student intern at the Net Policy Institute, and where my department is we study land reform. And what that has to do is we are asking the people of the Navajo Nation whether or not more grazing permits should be issued. Diné College invested into my future ever since I was a junior in high school. I was enrolled into the dual credit program, and because of that, I was able to graduate early. So I'll be graduating this May with my associates in business administration.
I'm a student here at Diné College, and I work in the Nethatale Museum under Project Success. And within working here, I've been able to gain skills within marketing and promoting the museum with programs that they hold here, such as an arts program for kids, also cultural programs that relate back to keeping our tradition and culture alive, because lately we've been losing that with the current generation, and what we're trying to do here is to continue our culture and our language.
Diné College gave me the opportunity to continue my education, especially meeting the requirements within the university level. Besides Diné College giving me an education or the opportunity to obtain higher education, they've also given me an opportunity to work as a city intern with the Office of the President. That'll help me to interact with higher officials within the department to better my approach towards universities and other institutions.
Yad She'e Jasmine Martinez Yenishe. This past May of 2018, 31 students received their bachelor's degree from Diné College. I'll be graduating in May of 2019 with my bachelor's degree in business administration. You can get one-on-one learning, and best of all, the college is very affordable. The curriculum is rooted in Diné identity. I got my start at Diné College.